Hey everyone, let's see what kind of books we have at Walmart. Oh, that one looks pretty. This one looks good. That one looks good as well. Oh, I want to read that one. Then they have lots of kid books. Lots of Goosebumps. And then these ones are all the kids. Hold on. And, ooh, that one looks good. And The Woman Down by Colleen Hoover. Nicholas Sparks. These ones are pretty. That one looks good. My kids like this Friday at Freddy's. All the coloring books. And then these little ones. Here is the Karen Slaughter Girl Forgotten. I like these kind, but I don't like how thick and thin they are. Here's Dean Koontz TikToks. So, this is your books. There, that one is. Sorry. There they are. Hello everyone. So I wanted to come on here and do a book review. Look at this cool eye contact. Anyways, I did the September House. This is by Carissa Orlando. Here it is. Boo boo. So it was a good book. I have my notes right down below here. So let me just go through. This is a horror fiction thriller. The main characters are Hal and Margaret. There is 368 pages. There is some trigger warnings if you don't like blood and all that good stuff. So, Hal and Margaret, they do have a kid, Catherine. And she's like older, so she's kind of like on her own, right? So, Hal and Margaret always wanted a old historical house, like a Victorian house. So they were looking in the paper one day and they saw one that was a really cheap one, and they're like, hey, is this real or is this fake? Is there something going on? And the realtor said, like, yeah, it's the right price. And they're like, really? Like, we could afford that? So they got the house, they moved in, and they were doing their lively stuff and that. And every September that they've been there, the walls bleed. The house moans and it creaks, and then Margaret starts seeing things. She sees a man down the stairs. She sees like a little boy and he bites if you get close to him. She sees somebody in the closet like all twisted up. She sees somebody else that has like a match that hasn't been lit. There's a lady walking around and she's helping her on that, and she's like, what the heck? But every September they don't really get any sleep. There's a bunch of dead birds that hit the windows and like all that good stuff. So this goes on, and it's like 4 years later, and Hal is like, I've had enough. Like, let's move. Let's start our life over, and let's just do this all the proper way. And so Margaret doesn't want to go with him, and so he takes off. He leaves, and Catherine phones, and she's like, hey, I'm coming over, because Dad hasn't been answering his phone, and it's been a little bit in between here. So the main point is that Hal is missing now. So Catherine comes over. She goes to the police. She talks to the police, and they're like, hey, let's do a missing file. So they come over, talk to Margaret, and nobody seems to know where he is. They go out to the bars and that to go look for him because they find out he was drinking again. They go to the bars. They can't find him. And then Catherine starts thinking maybe like Mom has dementia. Like, what is wrong with her? Catherine sees like that the stove is on, that hot water is going at different times. In the drawers, there's like clothes where like maybe forks and knives are supposed to be. Like, There's knives upstairs in a drawer. Like weird things are going on. And she's like asking Margaret a bunch of questions like, do you maybe have dementia? Like, what is wrong with you? So she does this test with Margaret and she's like, hey, like you scored really, really low on this and I'm worried for you, Mom. All of a sudden there was an investigation still going on throughout this time. And last time somebody saw Hal was the taxi guy and he dropped him off almost to the house, but not really. So he would have to walk the rest of the way. He had two big cans with him, the taxi guy said, and they smelled a lot like gas. And that was last time he saw him. And anybody else saw him, it
Much later.
was Margaret that was the last one that saw him. Finally, the police come over. They search through the house and they find Hal's body downstairs. And then they think that maybe Margaret killed him because he is like squashed like a spider. So they start thinking like she's lost it. She doesn't remember. They start handcuffing her and the house starts coming alive. Ooh, this is where it gets really good. A bunch of stuff goes on in this house. Skip to the end, you're like, what is happening? So do they get to keep the house? Does the house stand at the end? Does Catherine and Margaret get to survive? Does Margaret maybe go to the crazy house? Like, what is happening? But I did give this book a 4.5 out of 5 because it was so good. It was so good written. Like, go ahead and read it. You would love the ending. It is a 368 page book, but I did read it in a couple of days because I've been reading it a little bit here and there at work. So go ahead, read it. You will love it.
The end.
Hello. So guess what I have for you? I have a book called The Perfect Marriage. And it was by Geneva Rose. I read it and I actually giving it a 5-star. It was really good. So this girl, like, there's a lot of bouncing back and forth, and if you're actually in the story, then you will understand it. But to hear it kind of probably from me, you're like, what is happening? But anyway, let's try to follow along, okay? So there is a lawyer and she's with a husband and he has a lake house with her and he goes to the lake house to go and write books. He finds this girl that's down there, so we'll call her his girlfriend. So he stays down at the lake house writing books and that and has his girlfriend over. This girlfriend, she used to have a past life that we did not know until halfway through the story. So anyway, her past life, she had a husband and she killed him. And she was on like a thing and they let her walk for it. But the husband that died, he had a brother. And so we don't find out about him until like halfway through the story either. So there's a lot that's going on. So eventually through the story, the husband and his girlfriend are down there at the lake house and he leaves her a note and she dies. Then he takes off and goes and stays with his wife back in town. And so the police come in the morning and they knock on the door and they're like, hey, are you this guy? And they're like, yes, what's your problem? What do you want? And they're like, hey, you're getting charged for the death of this girl, his girlfriend. And he's like, I didn't kill nobody. So guess who the lawyer is that's going to come in help him? His wife. So now he has to tell step by step, like, when he met this girl, how long have they been together, when do they see each other, what have they been doing, like all that personal stuff. So she was not very happy, but he had to tell her and blah blah blah. The girlfriend, her boyfriend is a policeman, so that was that. And so the lawyer works at a firm in that, and the guy that works there is the girlfriend's dead husband's brother. And then they have a secretary. Well, the lawyer has a secretary, and they all think she has a crush on her, and maybe she's the one that killed her, or killed the girlfriend. So there's like a whole circle going on that everyone is thinking maybe that the other person did it, and it is just a lot of going on. Sorry, the kids are playing in the background. But so there's a lot going on, and the husband eventually goes on death row, and the wife comes in, the lawyer, and she's like, I know you're not the bad one. I know you never killed her. And he's like, what? Who did then? And so then he finds out at the end that there's somebody that she knows that killed her. And it turns out maybe it was somebody that was close by. So I don't want to tell you the ending, but there was like, at one time I thought like 5 people were the killer. And every time I thought it was like the killer, then it turned around and I was like, oh, maybe this one is. Oh, maybe this one is. So it was really good, but the ending, I did not expect that person to be the one that planned this whole entire murder. Planned it. So you're going to have to go ahead and read it and find out who, because you're going to be shocked. I thought like, yes, the handwriting, we caught the person. Nope. Or, hey, you're related by blood. We caught the person. Nope. Not that one either. Oh, maybe you have a crush on me and I killed that person. Nope. So there is a lot of things going on and you want to find out who. So go ahead, read it. It was a pretty short book. I think it's like a 10 or 12 hour read. So basically a one sitting down book. So go ahead, read it, because that one actually is really good. So 5 out of 5 for that one, because it kept me so interested. It wasn't like blood and guts and a bunch of that kind of story. I like those, but this one kept me on my toes because I did not know who the killer was. So go ahead, read this book. You will like it. Don't my eyes look cool with this filter on? Look at my nose, kind of looks shiny. Maybe I look like a 10. Look at this. That's Noah, everyone. Be nice to him. Hello, so I just wanted to come on here. Yesterday I went to work and I started a book called The Trad Wife. Now this is not the other trad wife that has like the pregnant woman on the front. This one is by Carrie Hughes. Sorry, I just got off work, so I'm a little pooped out, but I did it. This one was a slow burn thriller. It was like a twisted thriller. It had some romance and that all in there as well. The main character I have in there was Melissa. The daughter was Willow, and Faith is another like main character that was in the book. Okay, so this is a book, single book, whatever, like around 333 pages to 336 pages. There was a lot of plot twist, lots of drama. It was kind of funny at some places. It talked about religion in some places. This was like a kind of like a Mormon and LDS. Okay, so that was exciting because I know a little bit about that. So, but first off, a trad wife. What is that? A trad wife is a traditional wife from the 1950s when they had the gender specific roles. Sorry, my mouth is tired of talking. So I have my notes here. I'm just going over them. So Melissa is a single mom as well, and her daughter Willow. So she's got a stay-at-home job right now, doing marketing and social media, and then she goes into the office a couple times a week as well. So she's got this girl at work that's kind of a younger version, and she's kind of like the older woman that is kind of getting like that she's old, and the other girl is young version that all the business wants, right? Anyway, so stuff goes on there, and the only way to calm Melissa down is kind of just to relax, watch her YouTube, watch her social media, and watch this girl that's name is Faith. It seems like she has a perfect life, a perfect husband, perfect kids. She has 6 kids. She has like a farm, lavender business kind of thing. Everything is perfect. So Melissa, of course, is like, no, there's something going on. I would like to investigate that. So she messages her for the fun of it and was like, hey, like, I don't think she's got a message, but let's see. Hey, can I do an interview on you? Blah, blah, blah. And Faith does message and say, yeah, I would like you and Willow to come on down here and you guys could come up with some questions and I will answer them. So, of course, Melissa and Willow go down on the plane. Willow, of course, first airplane ride. She's very excited. She's very happy. They get down there. There's a cowboy that's waiting for them to pick them up, take them down to the house. It's a farmland. It's got like the farm, the like garage, like a big barn, I guess you would call it a barn. They got like a cabin there, so the guys stay in the cabin, so they're both excited about that. But there's like, you're not allowed to use your internet, and you can't be using like the Wi-Fi. Like the Wi-Fi is internet, sorry. So anyway, all this is going on. She's trying to figure out like what is Faith hiding. Like, you're not the perfect wife. You can't be perfect 24/7. Nobody is. But it looks like she is. She's perfect cook. She's perfect with the kids. And every time she sees a husband, it's, oh, hey, perfect. Everything. Not true. So anyway, when they were leaving after all the interviews and all that stuff, Faith does give Melissa an option to come back and stay and work. So she goes back to town and then decides on it like, yeah, my daughter Willow loves it down on the farmland. I would like her to grow up that way, not in town with bullies and that. Why don't we just move down there and help her with social media marketing online? So they go down there and they start getting involved in the church. So the daughter is saying like she wants to get baptized when she is 8. That's a thing that they do as well. So that is true. So she's getting involved in it, like as soon as you know right and wrong, you get baptized. They're saying that like the more kids than that you have, you go to heaven, and the more you do, the closer to God you'll be. That's what they tell you in the story anyway. But yeah, so Willow is getting really into this faith and that, and her mom Melissa was like, hey, we're not here to be pressured into faith. And then some things go on, so blah blah blah. We're gonna skip some parts so you have to read the story because I don't want to tell you the good stuff. Some parts happen. Somebody gets shot. Melissa goes to jail. She's got blood splatter all over a wedding dress she's wearing. She goes to jail, and there was a drone flying up ahead. And she's like, I didn't kill nobody. And all of a sudden, Willow is saying to the police that she shot him. Something happens, and the police officer is like, hey, this person that was the shooter had to be far away. You were up close. It was not you. And then another social media guy knew something was off in the video and said like he took cues on Melissa's video and he wanted to investigate himself as well. So the whole ending is something that I did not know or think was going to happen. It had a lot of plot twists. So I think I would give this a 4 out of 5. It kept you going from like the very start, and it was very interesting. I liked it. This was a art book I was reviewing from NetGalley as well. So but it was really good. So yes, go ahead, read it. Find out what the ending is because the ending was really, really good. And I will update everybody on my YouTube. Hello, everyone. So I am Christina. Look at this beautiful black hair. Look at this. Anyway, the book that I read yesterday is a ARC book. It is for review only. It is not out yet, but it is called Shy Girl. It is by Mia Ballard. I do have my notes I am looking at, so I don't make a whoopsies on it. I started it yesterday. I finished it today. It is a short book. It's only 281 pages. But I work full-time as well, and I'm a full-time parent as well. So it took yesterday night. I started at 11, and then I worked overnight, and I finished it, I think, before I picked up the kids from school. So it's basically a one-time sit down and read book. One time, sit down, anyway, just sit down and read it. The main character is Gia and Nathan, and it is a horror, thriller, mystery, book about women in charge. Like, it's all the good stuff. So this book has so many trigger warnings. You probably want to check your trigger warnings first before that, okay? So Gia, she is a girl, and she's in a bad situation. Her landlord just gave her like an eviction notice if she does not pay the rent in, like, she got a timeline, so I think it's like a day or something. And then she heard about this one website that is like a website for sugar daddies. It's kind of like sugar daddy website. So she joins on that. She applies, and a couple of guys are starting to write to her, and she's like, I'm going to only put it so I could get enough money, and I know my limits. I know what I can do and what I can't. Blah, 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 right? So she meets this guy on there, and his name is Nathan. He says he doesn't want nothing to do with like money, and she's like, well, why are you on this website? So anyway, he's like, come out for a drink. So then they go out for a drink, and that's when he says to her like about his rules and that, and she's like, okay, I thought this was like a transaction thing that we were going to do because you're on that website. So she was all in for it. She already knew what she was going to do for money and all that stuff. And he kind of shot her down right away and made her feel awkward. So anyway, they finished their night and they went their separate ways. So then she come home. Her landlord put an eviction notice on her door, and that's when she phoned or messaged him and said, "Hey, can we meet up? Can we talk? It's emergency." So they go out for a meetup and that. So they go out to this place. So she goes and talks to him and that, and he's like, what's this about? Is this about money? And she's like, yeah, I'm getting evicted. I don't know what to do. And he's like, okay. So they eat their spaghetti and that, and then he says, follow me in your car. So she goes out, follows him in his car, like follows his car. It's like 20 minutes or 30 minutes later, and he drives to his house. So they go inside. He goes into this one room with a dog cage in there, and she's like, do you have a dog? And he's like, no, I do not. So then after he sits down, and she's like, I need this much money for rent, or I'm getting kicked out. I don't know where else to go, and I don't know who else to turn to. He's like, okay, I could help pay and get that for you. He's like, I also have a job. I'm gonna sneeze. Ooh, don't sneeze. So, oh gosh, sneeze or don't sneeze. Come on. So, he says, I have a job for you. If you want it, you could be my dog for 8 hours and then go home and do your regular life. I will pay you more than you would for rent. So every night, and then at the end of the week, you would get paid. So she's just thinking about all the money that she could be earning. Her rent, I think, was $1,200 or something. So she's kind of in that situation that she needs money and she doesn't know what to do and she needs a job. And she's like now thinking about all the money she could have. And she's like, what? This could be good. So she's like, I'm going to have to think about it. She goes home, thinks about it, and then messages. And she's like, hey, yeah, I think I'm interested in being your pet. So she asked a bunch of questions. What could I do? What could I not do? Is there consequences? Blah, blah, blah. So basically, if you do something that is not like a dog, then you will get punished. And you have to do everything like a dog. So talk like a dog and walk like a dog, eat like a dog. So everything like dehumanizing, right? So anyway, he messages her and says, like, come on over. You could start your shift tonight. So she's like, overnight shift? Okay. So she cleans her house and that as if she was coming for a night shift job. She goes to his house and she spends the night in the crate and that. And in the morning, she's like, oh gosh, I can't wait to get onto my own bed. Like, this was not comfy, but it was worth it because I'm going to be getting all this money and I'm going to be able to go home and go rest in that. Then he lets her out for a pee in the morning and he just looks at her and starts talking to her as a dog. And then he says to her, oh, by the way, you're not going home. I think I like to keep you here. She's like, what? So, anyway, weeks turn into months, and people start questioning her, like where he messages her family and friends, and even wrote a note for the landlord saying like she took off. The landlord, he got $4,000 and said like she's moving to do whatever with like all her stuff in there. So he already dealt with almost everything. Um, Weeks, months, years go by, and she is still caged up like an animal. She gets out and she's on all fours. She has to do things with this guy, and he still does that. He still does that with her, but it's as if she's not a human. He just treats her like an animal, gives her nothing but dog food. He brushes her, he walks her around with her collar and leash and that. Very just dehumanizing. So the whole time you're feeling really, really sad for her. I think it's at the point that she's there for 6 years and she starts getting hair on like her back and on her arms. Her front legs start stretching down kind of like a dog would. So she starts getting like kind of sculpted up into like a dog figure. So she's starting to turn because of the way that she's walking on all fours. She's barking. She's not talking at all because she has to act like an animal the entire time where she gets hurt or put in her place. So I think 7 years later that she finds out she's pregnant and she's gonna be having a little puppy. Puppy, I say, puppy. So, yeah. I don't want to tell you too much more because that is almost the end of the book, but you're going to have to read it to see if she gets out of the cage, gets out of the house. He does end up leaving, like, the house door or window a little bit open that she could actually get out, but does she get out? Does she not? It's kind of like that, what story was that the two girls were kidnapped in that guy's basement down in Cleveland, and he left the door open sometimes, and then they didn't even get out because they were so trained on, if you leave, like, this is a test, if you leave, I'll be out there and I'll get you, blah blah blah. So that's kind of like her situation. She thinks everything's almost like a test, and she's scared. Of course, 7 years being treated and beat, like, you're scared. So read the book, see what happens, but I only gave this book a 3 out of 5. It wasn't that good. It's not really good written, but it kept you interested in that you wanted to read more. You wanted to find out what happened to this girl, and does she get out, and what happens to her? Does she end up being an animal at the end? Go ahead, read it. It is by Mia Ballard.